Namaste.
Namaste.
Andrew, it's an absolute joy to speak to you here today and amongst this beautiful, tranquil serenity in Bali, Ubud Rainforest. Thank you for coming.
It's an absolute pleasure. Pleasure to be here.
So I stumbled across you in a yoga class, and that's when I began my transformation, my journey. But tell us a little bit how you began yours.
My journey began with a crisis, actually. I was a dancer choreographer for many years, and during that time I was touring the world, thought I was king of the world, and then all of a sudden my knee blew out. And it kind of veered me off in a very different direction. And I was being called to move and to shift into another phase of my life, but I was really resistant. And the more resistant I became, the more my knee became inflamed. And I remember I went to my first yoga class in Richmond, and I went there for my rehabilitation of my knee, and I remember coming out of it crying, and I hadn't cried in years, and it was a huge emotional release. And I recognized that it was far more than a physical healing, but an emotional healing, and then the mental clarity that came after that. And I got hooked, and so I just kept going back to classes, and it veered me in that direction of where I am now.
Wow, and you're a man of wisdom and knowledge with your practice. If anyone experiences your yoga class, it truly is something special. But what I love about what you teach is making it accessible to others, because transformation can feel a little uncomfortable.
Sure.
So how do we cope with change when we first start yoga and
Sure.
have these emotions that come up?
Look, I think the first principle in that is that to accept that change is inevitable. I mean, the change is a part of life, and nothing stays the same. The only thing that really stays the same is that source energy, whether we call that the universe or the light or God or the divine essence, whatever name we give that, which is beyond a name, that stays the same. But everything else changes, and I think when we can accept that that change is inevitable and that we can move through that, and we're always being, the more aware we are, the more conscious we are, the more we're being directed towards our highest good, our life purpose, what we're meant to be doing for the planet and for humanity. And that's a constant observation, but that first step is the acceptance of change, and then really listening and tuning in to your body and your heart and your mind to say, well, what's that next step that I need to take?
And I think from what I've experienced is that you need to be really aware of your thoughts and your body. And for me, living a conscious life, yoga helped me. So how do we stay conscious and aware in everyday life?
It's one of the beauties of yoga, actually, it's that it does allow you to become more and more conscious. And the catch is, though, when we become more conscious and we become more aware, the more responsible we become. Because we then find that we can choose to go back into old habits and old patterns, but we will recognise that no longer serves us. And so we slowly with, and sometimes it can be really accelerated, we then recognise, well, what does serve me at this point in my life?
And is that when you take, all these aspirations and goals that are floating around up there,
Yeah.
how do we ground ourselves to share with us how we do that and make these dreams more of a reality?
And it's funny, it brings up a story with, after I'd met my yoga teacher and I followed my yoga path, I had all these dreams and aspirations, and I kind of lived up here and had all of these ideas and drafts of what I wanted to create. And then I started to learn about the energetic body and the chakra system. And I knew that the base chakra was about grounding and security, and the sacral is about creativity, and solar plexus is about personal power, and heart about love and throat creative expressions. And I knew, and our intuition and our intellect and source energy. But then so I intellectually knew this, but then it was an Iyengar teacher who came in one day, and I was going through my formal training, and she looked at my feet. And I never wanted anyone to look at my feet because I had flat feet. And as a dancer, that was not a great thing. So she made me look at my feet, and she looked at them and said, "What are they doing?" And for a year, she made me practice Tadasana and standing poses. And I didn't realize the benefit of that at first, but what came later was that focusing on the feet and the grounding of Tadasana is the essence of base chakra. It roots everything down and allows your dreams and aspirations, everything that you want to create, to then come into form. And from that, after that year, all of the things, the ideas that I had about running retreats and workshops and intensives and traveling the world all started to come to fruition, because it was no longer living up here anymore. It was actually rooted in form, and like a tree or a flower or a seed that breaks. In order for it to grow, it needs roots to ground down in order to flourish.
And you often mention in your yoga classes that, when you really start to experience this opening that we get from living in awareness and conscious life, that doors start to open.
Yes.
And it truly is an amazing, it feels a flow of energy.
Yes.
So learning about the energetic body is something crucial, and thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure, absolute pleasure.
In terms of responding with life and reacting, what are your views on that?
Responding and reacting. Look, I think that there's, again, the acceptance that we have a mind that takes in information through our senses, through what we smell and taste and see and feel and hear. And we have opinions on that. And when the less conscious we are, we just simply react to those things. We have our buttons pressed. And the beauty of yoga practice is that we can watch the button being pressed and we can watch the reactivity and say, okay, pause. Let me breathe and let me just watch that. Let me be curious. Why am I reacting to that in that way? Does this thing that used to annoy me, why does it annoy me? And does it still annoy me now? And can I move through that in a more conscious way? And so, of course, that's a journey in itself, and it's a constant practice.
And we're all searching for that peace, the harmony,
Sure.
the joy within.
Sure.
So tell us about the Heart Centre and your Anyasara yoga. Share with us, what does it mean to open your heart?
I mean, after 11 years of teaching, then to come across Anyasara, which is underpinned with a tantric philosophy, and it's all about everything in your life is included. Universal principles of alignment and the community, including everyone. And it comes from such a beautiful heart-centered approach that we are trained and encouraged in everything that we do to see the good. Even in the most difficult, dark situations, the most challenging, hard, really dark
And we've all felt
periods,
that.
of course. If we can see that within that there is something good, there is something to learn that's helping us to grow, and we can see it from that perspective, then we open up our lens and view things in a very different way. And I can honestly say that the greatest challenges and difficulties and crises in my life have actually been the things that have propelled me more and more towards that evolution and that growth and the transformation that you're talking about. We're trained to see the darkness as not something bad or a mistake, but actually it becomes the springboard to propel us higher into the light, or deeper into the light, or deeper into our greatness.
Well, you talk about in your yoga classes about the change of different seasons, and I really love that concept.
Yes. You know, when you talked about change earlier, it reminds me of, it's as simple and as complex as the breath. So we're constantly changing. We have a breath every moment of our lives. So we inhale, we pause, and then we exhale. And there's the pause. And when we're before yoga, I didn't pay attention to the breath. The yoga, that's the first thing that actually we learn is the breath. And it's the one thing that unites us all in the world, in life, is the breath. So I like to think of the breath as like the seasons. So the inhalation is springtime. The fullness of the holding of the breath is summer. We exhale and there's the autumn, the release and the shedding and the letting go. And then there's this pause at the end before the next inhale, that's winter. It's just empty. And then, but it has the potentiality for fullness and new life, and that's the next springtime, is the next inhalation. And if we can see our lives like that, and every moment like that, that's the beauty.
And I even feel just relaxed listening to you telling me to breathe.
That's the beauty.
Beautiful. So tell us a little bit about gratitude and fear. How do we melt fear away when it comes up?
Okay. So I've come to a point in my life where I really have, I allow a morning practice and an evening practice of gratitude, and I begin and end my day with gratitude. And it's not just the word gratitude, but it's the real embodiment of, wow, I'm really thankful for this. And even when you have a really difficult days, they're the days that if you can end your day with finding one thing that you are absolutely grateful for, it completely shifts that day. The beginning of the day can start that way as well. So I wake up and I say, okay, I'm really grateful to have this life. I'm really grateful for the changes. I'm really grateful for doing things that I love. So, you know, when we're grateful for those things, we draw more, universally we draw more of that energy towards us, and we encourage more and more of that to flourish and to grow. With regards to fear, again, it's really simple, and yet can be simple in theory, but more complex in its practice. I see the opposing energy of fear as being love. So anything that I become afraid of, I surrender it, I go the complete inversion of that, and I surrender it to love. And that change, for me, that changes everything. You know, I've been taught for many years that love transforms all, love is the healer, love thyself, you know, all of these things that, you know, seem like they're cliches, but one of my teachers had said to me, same teacher that spoke to me about my feet, and she said, we're talking about cliches, and she said, you know, perhaps, Andrew, the cliches are the gems of wisdom that we just haven't gotten yet.
Beautiful.
And that really stayed with me. And so I've really put into practice more and more the practice of love versus fear. And for me, that's the fastest transformation.
So would you say practicing your yoga, your meditation helps us open our heart and shine more love? Absolutely. Which is going to melt fear away if it comes up.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you around the serenity here in Ubud Rainforest, and I'm truly grateful. So just want to say namaste.
It's been an absolute privilege, Nicky. I mean, to see you transform over the years, over the past 12 years from when you first came into my yoga class to the work that you're doing now, helping others transform their lives. I'm just so proud and honoured to be here, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
And namaste to you, everyone. For those of you who are unaware of what namaste means, it translates as, I honour that place in you where the universe resides, in love, in truth, in peace. I honour that place in you. For if you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, we are one. Namaste.
Namaste.